Brian met a beautiful girl named Cindy at a bar. He promised her a glimpse of an actual time machine just to lure her. Brian and Cindy sneaked into Stewie's room and dashed into the time machine. Cindy was impressed and Brian was rewarded. Lois was impressed as she noticed that Brian was entertaining a lot of female guests lately. It was then one girl pointed out that wouldn't the real owner Stewie Griffin know the number of years traveled by Brian. When Brian freaked out, the smart chick advised him to reverse the time machine and take off the miles. Brian fiddled with the time machine, but the machine went out of control, releasing a magnitude of flashing power towards the sky. Stewie exclaimed in horror as the time machine was having a complete meltdown. As Stewie tried to fix it, the machine jerked and knocked both Brian and Stewie to unconsciousness. When they were finally awake, Stewie was devastated to see his time machine all demolished. He was enraged to find a pair of undies inside the machine and figured out the whole game played by Brian. On Stewie's probing, Brian confessed that he tried turning the chronological gauge backward. Stewie snapped back at him that the machine was not designed to go backward. As Stewie looked outside the window, he was horrified as everything and everyone was moving backward. Stewie reprimanded Brian for messing up with his machine as it had reversed the direction of time. Stewie guessed that they were safe from that bizarre alteration because they were inside the machine at that time. Creepily, everyone was unaware of the major change and mechanically moving in reverse. Panic-stricken, they watched a smashed bus with dancing flames around it, courtesy of the infamous battle between Peter and the fiery rooster, taking place in reverse gear. Stewie noticed that Cleveland was back in Quahog as he had left the town quite some time ago, yet they only entered reverse time just recently. According to Stewie's analysis, time may not be moving backward, but it was just accelerating. Stewie explained that they all were experiencing time dilation in forward time, in which time moved more slowly due to some factors. So now he had to isolate all those factors to find which one was responsible. The dilemma arose when Stewie began to de-age, as reverse time began to affect him as well. Stewie freaked out when he saw Bonnie expecting Susie. Brian pointed out that Stewie was not much older than Susie, which meant he would be soon unborn. Stewie frantically worked on the time machine trying to figure out the deceleration factor when he suddenly dropped on his fours as he couldn't walk. Soon, the time came when he turned into a helpless baby, lovingly welcomed by his family members. Stewie helplessly begged Brian to stop the flow of time as his life depended on that. Brian fumbled with the time machine and then decided to move the time gauge in another direction. A massive electric flow was generated and soon everything went blank as Brian passed out. Meanwhile, Stewie had just been pushed back to Lois's womb. Brian woke up to find that everything was back to normal, so he rushed to the hospital and discovered that a baby was born to Lois, and thankfully it was Stewie after all.